We are three friends exploring connection, from the coffee shop to the podcast studio. I'm Amy.
I'm Anna.
I'm Erin.
Guess what I just did?
What?
I just put a whole bunch of
Paper towels
under my bra because last time was so hot in here.
That's what she told me at the coffee shop yesterday. She's like, you know what I do? There's something on Amazon for that too. That's what she said.
Boob sweat.
Boob sweat.
There's a
The
solution
worst.
to that.
Yes.
The worst.
The worst. So we're back.
Woo!
We're back.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We're apparently not quite awake yet.
Hey.
All right, everybody. Welcome back.
Yeah.
Episode 6. Today is What's Wrong with Being Mediocre?
Well, we'll get to that.
It's a big one.
It is a big one. Yeah, so talking about the connection to work or productivity or a drive to succeed that we all have, you all might have, we'll see. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And before that, just want to say, again, we edit podcasts.
So awesome.
Awesome.
We love them.
We love them, and they are super helpful in all our editing needs.
Yeah.
Take care of it.
They get
Yeah.
it done. They do our transcripts.
48-hour turnaround.
It's so good.
It is.
It would take us literally how many hours? So many hours.
Well,
So
the
many.
experimentation that happened at the beginning is
Oh,
brutal.
It was
Yeah.
brutal.
It
Yes.
saves us so much
Yes.
time, and they do a great job.
Yep.
Yes.
Um,
And they've offered 20% off.
Yeah.
Yep.
All you have to do is use the code Less Alone Podcast, and you get 20% off for your first month.
Boom.
Pretty awesome.
Thank
That is
you.
awesome.
Yeah, we
That's
really,
awesome.
really enjoy them.
Mhm.
All right, so guess what? We have a calling question.
Ooh.
Let's listen to it.
Okay.
I'm so excited about this. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, hi. I prefer not to give my name, but I'm from Denver, long-time listener, first-time caller, and I was hoping to get the Less Alone podcast crew's opinion on a situation. I sort of recently found myself with a couple of open slots on my friendship roster, and I was looking to level jump an acquaintance of mine to a full-fledged friend. I guess I should note quickly that this is just a standard run-of-the-mill platonic male friendship I was looking to start up, nothing crazy or nothing weird or anything like that. But anyway, I've worked with this dude a few times, and we seem to have some things in common, and we've always gotten along, so I asked him if he ever wanted to hang out. And I was met with a slightly less than enthusiastic, yeah, maybe, we'll have to see. And then I said cool and sort of just went about my work. But in the back of my head, I was kind of thinking, that was weird, why does he want to hang out with me? But I'm really not sure how to proceed from here. I don't want to force a friendship upon him if he's not really looking for one. Yet, at the same time, we've always gotten along, and I think we could be, solid friends. But I don't know, do you have any suggestions on that? Do I just drop it and maintain the acquaintanceship, or do I push harder for the friendship? I don't know. I don't want it to turn into something weird. So I don't know. I'd love any suggestions you could give me. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, caller.
Yeah, caller.
That was
Yay.
so cool to hear. So what do you two think?
Well, I think a couple things. One, the caller could wait to see if that person responds and waits to see if there's any kind of, does that person then initiate back at all? Like, is there any kind of give and take? So he's tried,
It doesn't sound
then do you
like it.
hold? No.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it.
Well, then I would say try it again.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I say try it again or maybe start with an activity. So do whatever it is that you want to go do. So like go get coffee or go get a beer or whatever it is that.
Go watch a game.
Yeah.
Mm.
Whatever dudes do.
I think the one thing I'm thinking is like maybe not just try it once and like who knows, maybe that guy had something going on that day or maybe he was distracted.
Yeah. It
And
sounds
so-
like maybe there was a distraction thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe it just wasn't. Maybe he would get a different reaction if he tried. Just try it again.
Yeah.
Or
But
what
maybe
happened
with a specific activity.
Or like
maybe?
just call it like, I don't know if this is too much, but like, hey, what if he just directly said something
Like what?
like, I didn't mean to be weird or awkward, or maybe that's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, hey, what? I just wanted to hang out.
Yeah.
What, just like put
Just
it out
be direct.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's too much, but
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, my thought is like, if you've asked once and, or you suggested it and they're like, yeah, sure. But they're not like that.
You can tell when people are not into it.
I mean, I kind of am getting the feeling that he's just not into it. Like it's like a polite, like, yeah, sure, we should hang out.
Or like when you see people and they're like, hey, you haven't seen them for a long time. And they're like, oh, we should do something. You're like, that you are not being truthful.
Yeah. It's
Don't
like if someone wants to do something, they will do it.
Yes.
Yeah. Like they don't need convincing.
Right.
It's like,
that's true.
I kind of think
do you think kind of move on?
I kind of think don't push it. Like, I think he's just not that into you.
Right. Yeah.
In a way. But I mean, I also don't think it would hurt to like throw it out there like one more time if, this caller is truly like, I think we could be really good friends, or, like I want to level jump this person.
Yeah.
Like
start a podcast. That's what I suggest. Just kidding.
Yeah, that definitely works.
Level
jumping. Hey, acquaintance, you want to start a podcast together? But yeah, so anything else? What do you think? Solid?
Solid.
Yeah,
I'd be curious to see if
what happens.
Yeah,
a follow-up caller.
Yeah, let us know if anyone else has any questions or things going on. 775-591-8860, and you might be featured on the show too. Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so our last episode's to do was to compliment 3 women on non-physical attributes. How did that go for you two?
Well, I complimented my friend who is the manager of the yoga studio, and every time I hadn't been there for a while, and I'd walked in, and the energy of the place, and yoga studios I think can go sometimes pretty pretentious, not all the time, but it's like not the warmest environment because you need to be yoga-y, and if you're not yoga-y, then it feels weird to be there. But I hadn't been there in a while, and they've been working on their community at this yoga studio in particular is so strong, and it's amazing. The leadership, so the owner and then the manager is my friend. I was just so proud of her. It was like this overwhelming, like, this is so amazing. And I think I appreciate it much more now because I'm in business too. Mm-hmm. And so it was just so good. So we talk every Monday morning. Well, we haven't in a while, but and it was just like to hear when people give you genuine compliments, then it's just so, it like lands different than if you just say, oh yeah, your hair looks good today or whatever. And so,
which is nice to hear, but it's nice different.
To hear. Yes, yeah, where it's like, oh, because it like takes a second, I think, for it to come into the person, and there's like and then it clicks, and then the person like lights up or glows in a way that's like feels solid, like standing in their truth, what we talked about last time. And so, yeah, when I'm not great with verbal affirmation of my love language, but when I have it and I can share that, then it like lands.
Is that your love language?
No, that is like gifts and verbal affirmations are on the bottom.
What
physical touch, Anna.
Oh, it says the hugger.
So physical touch, service, and physical touch.
Okay, what about you, Amy? I'm just curious.
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember. I should do that again. Probably.
Mine's
what about you?
Verbal affirmations and quality time.
Yeah, quality time.
Quality time, I think, was one for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Little nugget. Gotta learn these things about you too.
Yep.
Okay, so that's awesome. Yeah. So sounds like it went well.
It did go well. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just it's just nice to be able to do it.
Yeah. I noticed that people really love hearing feedback about themselves.
Right.
Oh, yes.
Like, so when you like say something like complimentary about something that's non-physical, like it's just like, oh, someone really saw what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like for this challenge, one of the examples I have is I called my sister actually talking about this episode and kind of her perception of it and all of this. And I was like, I knew you'd be the person to ask about this. And she just was like, oh. And then she had like another great like thing to say, about like, that was super insightful that I knew she would have. And it was just like, people love hearing those kinds of feedback. I think even if it's not
I think it's also like really a great way to connect and let someone become a little bit more vulnerable. Like if you are genuinely complimenting someone about some personal attribute or, whatever, I did that over the weekend, and I think it just some people can open up a little bit more, or like they're more likely to then give more, whether it's like physical or whether it's emotional or whatever, there's just it opens up that connection more.
Yeah.
I would say
it takes your guard down and then like you're okay.
Yeah.
It makes a safe space.
Well, and it's like I'm being seen for these things that I'm bringing to the table. So it's like, I want to bring more of those things to the table, maybe.
And on the flip side, if someone gives you a bullshit blowing smoke up your ass compliment, like just to do it, feels just gross.
Yeah.
Yes.
I always feel like that when I like give someone a compliment and they're like genuinely being like, oh yeah, I really like this. And then they're like, give me one right back. And I'm like, oh, we don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Like I literally,
I wasn't saying that so you would tell me something
it's
back.
like, it's my hair is not that great.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
like, no, we don't need to do that.
Yes.
Yes.
Like, just take it. Just say thank you. We're good. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we would love to hear how your experience was with that.
Yep.
And we have another awesome 5-star review.
Yes, we do. Thank you. 29 Lucy Jane 66.
I love it.
I love it too.
Good.
Here's what it says. Connection is everything! ! Love this podcast. We have been increasingly moving away from the people we love because of busyness and life. This gathering of friends to chat about connection and deep relationships is needed. My own Golden Girls group has kept me afloat for years. Maybe we should have a podcast.
Yes.
Woo.
I totally think
Thinking
you should.
Do it, Lucy
emoji.
Jane.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's so great.
Tell
Thank
us
you.
when it's ready to listen to.
The Golden Girls house.
That's awesome.
So awesome.
Love me.
That is really great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Love it.
Yeah, your reviews help the show be found. So we're so thankful for those. Keep them coming, share them with your friends, and your review might just be featured on the podcast. So keep them coming. We love hearing from you.
Awesome.
Okay, so gosh, this is a big one. The connection to productivity / achievement. There's a lot that comes up with this. So this is like all the things that come to mind when we talk about this is connection to work, productivity, the internal drive to succeed, the hustle for worthiness, a la Brene Brown, the obsession with the doing, overfunctioning, high achieving, perfectionism, ambition, the hustle, workaholism, the inability to settle once you hit your goal. So a lot of stuff,
A
right?
lot of
We're
stuff.
back to a heavy one,
Yes.
folks.
Yeah. And it's interesting. So when we had first talked about doing this episode, I was like, yeah, connection to work. Yeah, that's great. I'm totally cool with that. But then Erin had wonderful insight about let's make it the connection to the drive, the ambition. And that made me so uncomfortable.
Yeah?
That part. And so, yeah.
Interesting.
You got to say more about it. You
Well,
can't just drop the mic and walk away.
And bye. All set here.
See ya.
Said what I needed to say about that one. Yeah, so it's like I'm okay with talking about the work piece, but the idea of my drive and my ambition, that I'm not as comfortable talking about.
What
So
does it do? What happens?
it makes me not want to go there.
Oh.
So if I cry on this episode, it might happen.
Oh, it's okay, Anna. It's
yeah,
okay.
all right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm just telling you, I feel a little nervous about talking about this. So I went into the bathroom like 4 times before this episode started.
You did. I was noticing you had to go to the bathroom quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just blame it on the coffee, but
That's
I'm
it.
like, you know what? That's
Squirming.
what happens.
You're
That's what
squirming
happens
over
when
there.
I get nervous.
You're squirming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can feel it. You're picking up what I'm putting down here.
Yeah.
So
That's okay. We had that great conversation last episode that like it's so nice that we can just show up as we are for each of these studio recordings, and sometimes they're heavy and sometimes they're crazy.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're goofy, and today we'll just see what's going to happen.
Right.
total grab bag. So
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I really find myself thinking a lot about our episodes after we listen to it, we record them, and then we listen to it, or, you know, do that process to start the editing and start pulling like the info for the sneak peeks and all of that. And it felt like when we said this in the studio that it felt like we were kind of stoned. Like we were like slap happy. It was an odd episode. It was a little different.
We were not stoned.
We were not stoned. No, not at all. Stone cold sober, which makes it even sillier. But I was talking to Aaron, girl Aaron here. My husband's also Aaron, so I feel like I have to always clarify that. But it felt like this twin high that I get when I'm with my twin sister.
Oh.
So it's interesting that we were talking about what's up with women, and then we had this giddy, silly twin high
Yeah.
giggle fest of an episode talking about
That was like stomach hurt laughter.
Yeah.
We had to edit a lot of the laughter out because it was
Yes.
ridiculous.
It was a little painful for the
Yeah.
listener.
Right.
it'd be we did that for you.
Yeah, right.
Merry Christmas.
Right.
You don't need 4 minutes of us giggling
Laughing.
Oh,
in your
funny.
ear holes.
Right.
The hot eardrum action.
Yeah,
Oh boy.
that's right.
There we
But
go.
okay, so talking about another thing from the last episode. Okay, you two both said like you were serious.
Yes.
So this is
Yes.
coming up with the sicknesses and the secrets. So I feel like I have to tell you this because I'm like, I was feeling really insecure about this. So you two are serious introverts, self-proclaimed, right?
I would say I'm not an introvert.
Or extrovert.
I'm like
So-
middle.
I'm on the border now.
Mhm.
Okay, so more serious.
Truth be told, is that I was like growing up. That's why I don't like. I guess how life has unfolded is that like I feel very serious now. I think partially because I'm in serious world
Yeah,
as a therapist now, and so I'm with heavy stuff all the time.
yeah.
And I always talk about this with my therapist that I need to work on play more because I have like
Yeah.
this drive, this
Yeah.
whole episode like
Yeah,
brings home like, oh, this is what I struggle with all the time.
yeah.
Because I like, and so with all of this, like the drive and the seriousness and all that, I get a lot of shit done
Mhm.
and I'm very productive. But then there needs to be some like evening of the scales so
Yeah.
that it's not all serious all the time. And so when I catch myself being serious, like I'm all the time, or I feel like, well, I haven't laughed at that twinning laugh.
Yeah.
I haven't laughed like that in
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, then I'm like, what? Why do I not have this in my life all
Mhm.
the time? And so that's because like deep in me, I like to be goofy and
Yeah.
I like to laugh at things, but then
Like your line of work is serious.
Oh, yeah.
And so you
yes.
find yourself showing up in that way.
yes,
yeah.
Professionally,
Yes.
so I'm sure that's like encouraged, obviously, in your profession.
right,
Yeah, so I started feeling insecure. Like, oh, maybe how are we friends if I'm a silly introvert and they're more serious extroverts? You know, like I started
interesting.
feeling insecure. Like, why does this work? How does this work? Is this doomed? Isn't
Needed.
it interesting?
Oh, that's
Super
super
needed.
And I think-
interesting.
I just wanted to bring that up because I was feeling kind of insecure about that.
oh,
And I was like, okay, the sicknesses and the secrets. I got to tell y'all what's happening with
Oh
me
my
here.
God.
So-
That's so good.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
started thinking, like, why do I feel insecure about that? And I'm like,
I think it's good for me. You're good for me.
yeah, absolutely, you're good for me
I
too.
think you're good for me too.
It's a
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah,
Yeah, balance.
It's a beautiful.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing when I
Yeah.
think like people are different and then they can.
Complementary.
Yeah. And you can really appreciate, the differences and then
Mhm.
still have that close relationship. And
Yeah.
it's just open communication
Yeah.
and acceptance of someone else and being respectful.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it's not like you can't be serious. 'Cause
Yeah.
you-
Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so
totally.
that you're like maybe you don't like to dive into the depths and you'd rather like be sillier, right?
Mhm.
That's good for the two of us to be
Mhm.
able to be silly and like
Mhm.
I don't want to say surface because that's not what it is, but
Yeah.
like keep things lighter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it is good
Yeah.
for you for us to push you to go into the depths.
Mhm.
Like that's why we're friends. Like that
Yin and
compliment.
yang.
Hey.
But yeah, it was interesting, like thinking
Uh-huh.
like, oh, maybe they won't. I like
We're gonna
me.
kick you out of the tribe.
Never.
Good thing we're talking about shame on this
Never.
episode.
Gosh, just some
No.
big things.
No.
Never.
We
So-
up leveled.
We up leveled.
Yeah.
We're
It's
on
not
speed
going anywhere.
dial.
Yes,
okay.
right.
I love you too. But yeah,
You
I
pick
felt
up
like
the
I had
phone
to.
for me, Anna.
I feel like I had
Yeah.
to tell you to that. And
Yeah.
What better place than
Yeah.
on the podcast?
There we
Yeah, just
go.
broadcast it.
Yeah. Hey, insecurity. Hello.
That's good content. That's good content.
Good content. Oh gosh. So Brene Brown.
Oh, love her.
She is the
Talks about the hustle for
Pioneer
worthiness. Yeah.
of this.
Yeah, well, her whole thing's on shame, right? Well,
Yeah.
and vulnerability,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Amy, you read that quote because you have the best radio voice.
Okay.
You're hired.
Brene Brown says perfectionism is not the same thing as striving to be your best. Perfectionism is the belief that if we live perfect, look perfect, and act perfect, we can minimize or avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. It's a shield. It's a 20-ton shield that we lug around thinking it will protect us when in fact it's the thing that's really preventing us from flight. Ooh,
I feel
that's
like
good.
That punches me in the gut.
Yeah.
Is what
Do I see
think.
tears in your eyes?
Well, close. Yeah, that's why I couldn't have read it. And I was like, oh, that's a good thing I didn't read it because I
Yeah.
probably would have choked up during that.
That's
So
good.
good.
It's
Yeah.
really good.
Because I think that's what, because for a long time, I didn't think perfectionism was a thing for me. And then when I was going through my Healing Touch apprenticeship, my mentor mentioned something like offhandedly, like, oh, yeah, I get a lot of perfectionists. And I was like, oh, that's not me.
That's
Yeah.
why
But then I was after things and I'm like, oh, I'm not like super detail oriented and I don't like outwardly, I'm not like super made up and I like those, and that's not what this is. It's like that I need to do this striving is I have to be very, very careful of like where this is coming from. Is this striving and is this a healthy, like I'm trying to be my best for the purpose of me? Or is this striving because I'm trying to hide whatever it is that I'm feeling bad about? Yeah.
Perfectionism is definitely something it's one of my struggles.
Yeah.
It's just hard. I think like, it's just, oh gosh, it's hard. You know, wanting to always project I do. It's like, I'm totally that type A perfectionist, you know, in all areas and like, I've always wanted to like be chill.
Like, no way.
That's always been my thing. Like, I just really want to be like, I want to be relaxed.
Oh,
like
that's
I've
funny.
like always wanted someone to tell me like, oh, Amy, she's chill. Like, I remember it was a thing in high school where I was like, oh, I just gotta like try to be relaxed, you know, it's like, it's
I'm gonna
so
work really
not
hard on
in
being
me.
relaxed.
So I just lately, like, I feel like I gotta just embrace this. And I do think it's been, you know, over the years as I've worked on my own shit now and then, you know, or well, constantly, let's be honest. I feel like I gotta just embrace this.
Yeah.
The intensity.
Yeah.
That's what people. That's
Oh
if you
my
wanna,
gosh.
Like, send me into the spin
Yes.
and flippantly call me intense, but like you mean it as like not a compliment.
Oh, that's what happened to me in high school.
Throws me over the edge.
It's like something I've had to work through for a long time.
It comes up repeatedly. Like,
yes.
oh, they're talking about you're too
But then
much.
when someone
Yeah.
loves the intensity,
then
it's like, oh my God, it's like the best thing ever.
I didn't even
Yes.
notice it in either of you.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you're intense too. That's why.
Anna.
Anna, she's goofy, but she's also intense. People.
Super goofy and
Yeah.
Activate. When you were talking about wanting to be relaxed, I was listening. I was in the car. I was talking to someone. Someone was in the car with me, but I was listening to a Tribe Called Quest, and they're
yes.
so chill. And I was like,
Yes.
those are the people that I would love to hang out with.
Yeah.
But then I would hang out with them, and they would be too chill for me.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
do stuff. Let's move. Let's
come
do it.
on.
Get it
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Just like that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been listening to a lot of Bob Marley in the car because it like pulls me down. I'm like, oh,
Yes.
that dude this is what I need. I'm like, why
Yes.
am I listening to the same stuff I listened to in 1998?
It is
But-
kind of weird. Like I'm like thinking a lot about
Lively Up Yourself. Oh, come on. Trenchtown Rock. Repeat.
I had the Notorious B.I.G. came on that song. Yes. I was like, oh yeah, here we go.
mine. It's just all about Far Side lately. I gotta say, yes, it is, and that's all high school for me.
Farside?
Yes,
Like the comic?
No, well, they have a comic on top of their album. Yeah, the Bizarre
it's
Ride.
different. It's different.
I was thinking like the Far Side in the newspaper when we were kids.
Oh no! I was gonna pull up this was like back in my high school days. Yeah,
You
Far
introduced
Side.
me to that.
Yes.
Was it a Minnesota thing? Because I didn't.
I don't know.
It wasn't like a thing for
yeah.
the high schools I was at. So I need to like
know.
study up on this
I need
band.
to. Okay.
They're solid though.
All right. Good to
Just
know.
drop my headphones.
So
Whoa, that was weird.
perfectionism.
Yes.
Yeah.
I use it to my advantage with not cleaning the house because I find myself thinking, well, if I can't do it perfectly, then I'm
Why
gonna just
do
wait
it at all?
till I
Yeah.
can do it perfectly. Yeah. So that's kind of how it shows up in my life. No cleaning.
It could be worse.
Good thing we don't live together.
I'm like, I can't scrub this with a toothbrush. Pass.
Oh, yeah.
So there's that.
There's
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
There is
All
that.
right.
I do like how Brene Brown mentions that it is a shield.
Yeah.
And I think
Yes.
that's like the truth. It's like, that's where like, oh, dang it.
Mhm.
You got to like get rid of that. You got to dig deep.
Well, because
Yeah.
ultimately,
You have to like look behind
yes.
it.
Ultimately,
Like, yuck.
this
yuck.
kind of striving, I think, is what I realize is I'm like, the most interesting people are pretty messy
Mm.
and and have like are standing in their power and are pretty messy or have been and they've come through that or whatever.
Yeah.
And that in my effort to, I mean, I have been plenty messy, so let me just say that. But like, it gets sometimes when I'm like doing things like lined up, then I feel boring.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my business partner and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I need to stop. I don't have a lot of vices left. And so I was like, I might need to cut down on coffee. And she was like, I'm really all for you drinking coffee
Yeah.
because people need vices.
Something.
Like people
Yeah.
need some sort
Yeah.
of
It's
vices.
a pretty good
to-
vice.
Yeah. And so, but I think that goes along with the thing is like, oh, why don't you eat a vegan diet and stop eating gluten and
Yeah.
take out caffeine? Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to stop that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, self-confession. Stop talking. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I do have to say I'm super excited to talk about this topic.
Yep.
As scary as it is to go there, because like I love our last couple episodes, but it's kind of fun to talk about different levels of or different things dealing with connection.
Yes.
The way connection works in our life in different areas. So super excited to kind of dive into this,
Right.
even though it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So there's an article. How do you know if you're a perfectionist overfunctioner? Answer these 7 questions as honestly as you can. Ooh, do we have the 7 questions?
Yeah, they're on there.
The list of them?
Yep.
Right here.
Got it.
Yep.
Number 1. Should we read them out?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 1. Are you driven and exhausted, depleted, and sad, trying to keep up with what you think you quote unquote should be doing in your life and work? Number 2, do you feel lousy and quote less than when you compare yourself to other women, other moms, and other professionals? Do you act in your life as if everything is a top urgent priority, whereas actually only a few things truly are? Is your family used to you doing too much and you feel it's really hard now to break that cycle? Do you feel that asking for help is a sign of weakness and imperfection and you'd rather struggle alone and try to do it all yourself? Is there rampant underfunctioning going on in your house or your job that you know you need to address but can't find the courage? Finally, when you stop and take time to really think about it, are you living someone else's definition of happiness, success, and well-being?
All right, so
Who's up? What do you think?
I just went through and answered yes or no. I got 4 yeses, 1 question mark, 2 no's. So I guess out of 7, maybe I'm a perfectionist overachiever?
Maybe.
Right.
What about you two? How'd you two score on that?
I was just listening, so I didn't really score, but
That's very good.
right.
That's
We're
maybe not an overachieving perfectionist
I gotta get this-
tendency.
There's
Like,
answers in here.
yeah.
That was good. Good job
Right.
listening.
But the part that came up for me is the underfunctioning is because I think that when people think they need to do it all and they're not asking for help, then it naturally makes it doesn't empower people around them to do things. And so then I think this pattern of underfunctioning can happen where it's like you don't need to overdo it in order, like other people can do something. And so I think that it's almost respectful to allow someone to also be doing
Yeah.
as well.
That
Mhm.
reminds me of like parenthood and being like, I remember when my little son was first born, it was like I made a point of letting my husband do it, even though I thought, ugh, he might not do it right. But I thought if I keep doing it, then I'm going to be the one who's always doing it because
Right.
he doesn't have the confidence to do it wrong.
Mhm.
Quote unquote wrong.
Right.
Which he does, it's great, whatever.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Yep. Amy, thoughts?
Yeah, there's a couple of them that I can definitely relate to, I guess.
So I recently have listened to interview. Oprah did an interview on Super Soul Sunday with David Brooks. And then I watched like several other interviews because I was obsessed with that when I heard about this book, because I was like in search of something that I needed something to fill me up. And so this interview,
the book called?
The Second Mountain is called the book, right? And so he wrote this book because he was in the middle of a crisis of disconnection. And so he talks about the first and the second mountain. And so the first mountain, this is how he defines all of this stuff, but see how it registers and how you think about this. So the first mountain is based on personal goals. So it boosts your ego, it defines the self, it celebrates personal freedom, and rewarded with happiness, right? And so he says that I was living a life of lies that our culture tells us. So if you succeed, you'll be happy, or I can make myself happy. And he lived that way. And so he said he valued time over relationships, and he was always busy and always on the mood. And this one is super powerful. And he said that I had a lot of people that were weekday friends. So I had colleagues that I could go to lunch with, but I had no weekend friends because no one confided on me. So like he had people he could like be with, but then there was no one there for him on the weekends, which I think is
it's very interesting.
Very interesting. And he said that how you go from the first mountain to the second mountain is he had like basically his life imploded. And so he had a major crisis. And so how you go from the first mountain to the second is you reject the lies of society. So it's like all the shit that society tells you, like you have to be successful this way or you have to be. And so the example that he gives is that if I lose 15 pounds, then I'll be happy. And he was talking about like, that's a lie. Or if I make all this money, however much money, and I do all these things, then I'll finally be happy. And that's the lie that we keep telling ourselves. And so then something happens, and he talked about like going up the personal goals, and then something, and this can happen at any point in life, you go down into the valley. And so whether that comes up with like someone's died and that close to you, you have some sort of crisis, illness, addiction, whatever the thing is, we all fall into something. And so then people are then forced to fall into themselves. And he talked about falling into their heart and soul. So good. And then that's what the valley is. And then the point about connection is that he believes that it takes a community to pull us out of the valley and show us a better way.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
Wow. Yes. And so that then I'm getting all teary.
I know.
I listened to this while I was running this weekend, and I was like, oh, this is so good. And so he talked about relationship, that everything then focuses on relationship and not on yourself. And here is so good, right? So when we're in the valley, he said that we have choices, right? So that we can either be broken or that you can be broken open. And it's like what you do with that. Yes. And so the second mountain is like to look beyond ourselves, to serve others, and valuing relationships over personal success. And so this is a time for us to live in wonder, gratitude, and hope. And so I only listened to the first 2 chapters, but the whole thing was on the importance of finding joy. And so to just listen, I was listening to this on my long run, and it went over like the different levels of joy. And it was like, oh yeah, because I think there's a difference between happiness and joy. And joy is like a robust more. It doesn't mean joy isn't just like being happy or being like, no matter what you get in life, that you find like you're content with that. And then it's like emanating out of you. You really meet like joyful people. It's like, oh, you just want to be around them. Yeah. And so when I was listening to this yesterday and thinking about the episode, I was like, oh yes, exactly. That's what we need to talk about. And so I'm curious about hearing that.
Wow.
What your thoughts are on that book.
Sounds great.
Right.
I got to read it.
I think I need to add it to my list of.
I think it's really interesting to think about the mountain peaks and valleys, and then how it's like, it sounds like what you're saying, the first one is all individual and like very self-focused. And then you drop or whatever, you kind of bottom out, really. And you then have to be carried up through community. And then it just sounds like it's much more outward, or like, I mean, it's all about relations, right?
Yeah,
Relationships with people. And so then you kind of shed that self-centeredness.
Right.
And I would say, I mean, there's a couple of things that I can think of just personally where that is definitely the case, where like times of crisis or times in the valley, like I have been brought back out through community, which I think is like this opening, which, is kind of like, as I've gotten older and as I've done more work and as, life has gone on and events have happened and, it's like it is opening. It's like opening to more people, opening to different thoughts, opening to different, spiritual ways of life, opening to different program, like just there's so much more that I've been opened to. And there's no way I would have been able to do that if I hadn't had the kind of these lows, which then kind of bring me out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But that's very interesting.
Right. But he also talks about historically, and I don't know enough about this just from like the brief thing I heard, but he talked about like culturally, like in the 60s, I think, because he referred to Woodstock, but like that this was like the time of being individual and self-autonomy and all this stuff. And so then this happened and people moved this way. So we moved away from communities and and everything was individual. And so then, but we need other people. And so like that's the thing that we've talked about repeatedly, like with the churches, like people aren't really going to church. But so where do you find community? Because we're all, we need to be interconnected. And that's why I think people feel so disconnected and lonely and why we are ultimately doing this podcast.
But it's also super interesting to think about, like my mind right now is going to achievement, money, individual, self.
Yeah.
And then it's like on the other side of that is connection, vulnerability, I don't know what.
Right.
But it's like, it's not, and it's like,
I don't think they're mutually exclusive though. I don't, I think that you can still be successful.
They can coexist.
Yes.
They can coexist.
Yes. It's just like the energy you bring to it, I think a lot.
Right.
Yes.
I definitely think they can coexist.
Yes.
I definitely think it takes a lot though, because even in our own culture today, you know, there's such an individual drive. And I mean, being an American, you know, it's like, and pardon me, I mean, I love that, you know, like, but the mutual, the coexistence of it all is, I think, something to the end. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And definitely worth, you know, thinking about.
Right. So,
very good. I'm going to have to read that. Yeah, that's a good find.
I want to hear it too.
Yeah, definitely.
David Brooks, high five.
High five. High five.
Yep.
High five.
So, being mediocre. What's wrong with being mediocre?
Well, being that we're high achievers and overfunctioners.
Who, me?
Right. I think I was working on this in my own therapy, and my therapist was like, well, Erin, what's wrong with being mediocre? And I like cringed and my stomach like turned, because everything for me, that like makes me feel, if someone called me mediocre, that would be like if someone called me boring. Or like it makes me feel, it would just does not, I don't have words around it. It just makes me feel like, well, if I can do better, then why wouldn't I do better?
Yeah.
Is it because you want to be special?
No, I think it's because if I was mediocre, then I don't think that I'm putting my best foot forward. And so along with this,
like not working hard?
I'm not showing up as best as I could. And if I'm not showing up as best as I could, that doesn't mean, that might be like, if I go on vacation, the best that I could is that I turn my phone off and I'm fully present with the people that I'm just like soaking in the environment. It's like, I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah.
That's the best way you can do that moment.
Yeah.
The best to turn your phone off.
And mediocre is like fully like showing up. Not fully showing up and just like half-assing things. I'm not a half-asser at all.
No, you are not.
Yes.
I heard this book.
What was the longest race you've run?
100K.
Wow.
Jeez.
So amazing.
Not mediocre.
Not mediocre. I heard this title of a book name, and I've never related to a book title so much. It's called Be Obsessed or Be Average. And I was like, yes. I didn't even read it. I was like, that's
awesome.
good.
It has pictures on the cover.
That is so funny.
Yep.
And totally. I think to me, they are synonymous. Like being obsessed means being successful. And like, you know, I am an all-in person, and that's something that is kind of tied with my identity, I've noticed. Personally, I think of myself as like, I'm all in. That's how I do things. That's how I operate. Like, if it's not extreme. And that's why like the spending fast has worked for me. And like, I always tell the community, I'm like, it's okay to be all in. Like, people who are all in types really have success with that method, the spending fast method. So be obsessed or be average.
But
totally
I think
relate to
I would say is that I wrote the note about being an average trail runner because I put all my effort into trail running and I do it the best that I can. But the overall results are that I am average at best. Like I'm not fast. I really enjoy doing it. I do it for myself and it helps me a lot. And I really love to be out there exploring. But in terms of like, if we're looking at external successes, then I am super average in that. But I am trying the best that I can. And so it does not make me mediocre.
Right.
So I think that is like the
That's
difference.
interesting.
So you
Yes.
don't consider that something like a quote unquote failure?
No, because
Yeah.
I'm finishing the races. I'm showing up. Like I'm showing up for myself like daily. Like,
But it also
taking care of
sounds like
myself.
that's like an internal measure. You're not measuring yourself by some external race time or something.
No,
I mean,
because that would be
but that's pretty cool.
go to bed crying after
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
race, and that's not what it's about.
Yeah.
Like, because everyone that I like try to convince, I've tried to convince Amy and Anna to come trail running with me.
I did it. I did it a couple times.
I want to try it.
I'm gonna do
I
it
feel
again.
like I might pass out.
Well, then
I almost
baby
did.
steps.
Did
That's what you did.
I
No,
haven't-
just kidding.
yeah,
I
It
have
was
an
great. I
inhaler.
would do it again.
Yeah.
I'll bring it along.
Yeah. But so the thing is that's different about trail running is than road running is like on the road, I think that there's this thing that you don't walk and that you need to keep going, right? But on trail running, if you're going to run up a hill, but you've never run up a mountain
we
before,
walked.
Yeah,
It was
then
great.
you hike.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
when you are on flats and downs, generally, then you run.
Yeah.
And so I think like that, it's just like you're out there doing it and then showing up.
Mhm.
And you're just there to enjoy it. I
Yeah.
don't think
Yeah.
that's mediocre, even though I don't know where I'm off on a tangent, but yeah. So
Yeah.
It's interesting because like I said, I talked to my little sister about this morning actually, and I was like, I just need to get your feelings or thoughts to help me wrap my head around this. And she said that she told me that I'm obsessed, that she sees me as being obsessed with achieving. And I was like, oh wow.
how did that sit with you?
I was like kind of like happy to hear that, honestly.
Right.
It brought up a lot of stuff and I was like, well, tell me about that, and okay. So she said that she admires it because she doesn't have it.
Mm.
And I'm like,
She doesn't have it how?
I don't know. That would be a good follow-up question that I did not
Right.
ask her.
Right.
Like, I like hearing that,
Yeah,
I like hearing that. Like, I get a ton of positive feedback about being, achieving and getting stuff done.
Me
like,
too.
our
Yeah.
society
Yeah.
really encourages that.
Absolutely.
But I feel like, and this is the part that's hard to admit,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a mediocre mom.
Mm.
And like, in my work allows me to, if I'm too busy with work, I don't have to look at that. Like, it's much easier for me to like build a website than to be like, I have to worry about the emotional intelligence of my 5-year-old, in a society where toxic masculinity is part of our daily life. Like,
Yes.
it's much easier for me to just cross off some tasks on a to-do list and focus on that and just say, I don't have time. There's no time left. And here's an easy justification for that.
Right. That's a good share.
It was a good,
That's a good share.
Yeah.
Yeah, you breathe into that. That's good.
I think it's interesting because my achieving has been a part of my mothering.
Right.
Mhm.
It's like my life is
you're
my
like a
kids and
super
my my kids, my kind of my home, like all of that is ever for 9 years. It's
Mhm.
just that's like where my achieving has been kind of expressed,
Right.
in the last decade,
Well, and it's
which
funny.
is pretty interesting.
I see how you run your house, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like goals, like hashtag goals. And I like I saw how
family
you did,
values on the refrigerator.
Yeah. And I
Yes,
saw
for real.
your Google Calendar, and I'm
Yes.
like, oh, I need a Google Calendar.
Yeah.
I need it like. Oh yeah. Like,
Yeah.
so it's fun to kind of feed off each other.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
and like, what works, what doesn't
Yeah.
work. But
Right.
super moms, I always think, I wish my husband is a wonderful dad to our son. And it's like, I always want, like, people always notice that about him. And I truly think that that's his purpose in life, is to be a dad.
Mhm.
Honestly,
Right.
he's that good at it. But like, no one has ever told me like, you're such a great mom. And it's like,
Mm.
oh man, like,
Right.
I wish I could hear that once,
Right.
and it's
Right.
like,
You are a great mom, though, Anna.
but it's like, like achieving and
Yes.
overachieving. It's like,
Yes.
that's something that I feel mediocre in. And like,
Yeah.
our society tells us like, you have to, if you work outside the home and, focus on your career, then you also have to be an amazing mom. And it's like, knowing that I'm not the preferred parent and my
Mm.
husband is to our son, that's really painful.
Mhm.
It's way easier to focus on work and to put my energy into that. And it's hard to admit when I, and notice that maybe my overachieving is not serving me in that. And like, how can I show up as a mom that I want to be, and like, make sure I don't have any regrets when
Right.
when my son
Mhm.
looks back on his childhood, or I look back on my parenting of his like formative years. I
Mhm.
want to be sure that I'm showing up as the mom I want to be. And, how do I do that?
Mhm.
Right.
It's so hard. I think like career and being a mom, like what that all looks like and means, and just the internal conflict that goes on, I think, with so many women.
Well, because I think it's an internal conflict, but then it's also like society has a whole bunch of people love to shame the moms.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Like, I literally feel like my husband just has to be awake during our son's life, and he's like super dad. And it's me, it's like I have to be making homemade food, and like we have to have all these like amazing activities, and I'm just not doing that, and like I feel like I'm failing. You know, it's hard,
and you are not alone with that. I mean, I feel like because even
it's never enough.
Yeah,
I can never do enough.
But I think though that's such a trick with both of it, because even like me having, you know, being a mom and is my job.
Yeah.
Then it's the lack of balance on the career side. And then that pull on me. You know, I guess my point is like no one's winning. No one is winning in that.
Which that's effed up.
It is.
Yes.
Like that. We should have brought that up in our What's Up with Women episode.
Yeah.
But actually, frankly, that could be a whole other episode.
Totally
it's like women
just
and
all the pressure.
Yeah. Because you cannot be a high achiever in every area of life unless you go insane.
Yeah. Something's
feel like something has to give.
Yeah. And you're supposed to do all this self-care, and you're supposed to like have an amazing marriage and communicate and like
and I think if you are a high achiever or you are an achiever, you feel that pressure so intensely.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So one thing we thought was kind of fun is that 2 of the 3 of us had done the Strengths Finder test, and then Anna, you ended up doing it recently, right? But we all have achiever as one of our top 5. I know achiever is actually my top.
It's my top one too.
It's my second one.
Yeah.
So kind of interesting. What did you think of that when you saw it, or what was like the context of when you took the test, or what was the driver?
I took the test last night because I was like, I need to get this off my to-do list. I was really surprised to see like the definition from the Strength Finders test of what achiever means.
Yes.
So should I go ahead and read that? Because I think it's really good. It says your achiever theme helps explain your drive. Achiever describes a constant need for achievement. You feel as if every day starts at 0. Agreed. By the end of the day, you must achieve something tangible in order to feel good about yourself. And by every day, you mean every single day, work days, weekends, vacations. No matter how much you may feel you deserve a day of rest, if the day passes without some form of achievement, no matter how small, you will feel dissatisfied. You have an internal fire burning inside you. It pushes you to do more, to achieve more. After each accomplishment is reached, the fire dwindles for a moment, but very soon it rekindles itself, forcing you toward the next accomplishment. Your relentless need for achievement might not be logical. It might not even be focused, but it will always be with you. As an achiever, you must learn to live with this whisper of discontent. Oh, I do not like hearing that. It does have its benefits. It brings you the energy you need to work long hours without burning out. It is a jolt you can always count on to get you started on new tasks and new challenges. It is a power supply that causes you to set the pace and define the levels of productivity for your work group. It is a theme that keeps you moving.
Yeah, I heard that and it felt like truth in the center of my being.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
if I don't do something, regardless, then I do not feel...
keep going. Keep going.
I don't.
Sorry about that.
Amy's pointing at something I need to achieve to feel. Yeah.
So, Erin, your business is actually focused on high achievers, and
right.
I actually loved hearing that. That's why I work with Crystal, and I see her personally and do peak performance. And so, this is something that is your specialty. So, I would love to hear more about that.
Right. So, Crystal and I started. So, we are both high achievers, and so we wanted to figure out how to work with, because I don't think there's enough like therapy practices around high achievers. And so not all the time, but a lot of the time, high achievers are great at compartmentalizing and like pushing their stuff that they've had. Oftentimes, people that have had a lot of shit happen in their life, whether that's trauma or just difficult circumstances or whatever, and they were able to push that down. But at some point, when you have a lot of stuff that you haven't dealt with, that's maybe driving you forward. And so you're like running from your stuff, or you're like suffering through your stuff. In order to get to the next level, you got to deal with all the things that you need to deal with in order to like propel you forward. And so the whole business is set up on helping high achievers to do that. And so you drop into the past, and then so that you can propel yourself forward. And I think that there's a lot to some of the things. If you feel like you need to deal with your stuff, right, then you might feel stuck or stunted, or sometimes people often complain of like having somatic symptoms, but they are not explained medically.
Like what type of things?
Like some people they might get headaches. They might just feel like a lot of tension in their body. They might have like, what other types of things? Back pain even, and just like random pains in their body. And they don't necessarily, sometimes some people think that autoimmune stuff is often linked to trauma. And so those kind of things is like stuff that we need to deal with. And that's what the whole business is about. And so
fascinating. The Kali Institute has helped me so much.
Right.
Like,
and what ways have you seen?
Oh my gosh. So I've done EMDR, and Crystal helped me with that. And especially with like the public speaking, there was a big fear or a desire to hide.
Yeah.
And so like, like the message to me growing up, it wasn't, articulated in this way, of course, but it was like, I am valued and I get worth when I achieve. And so, but don't achieve too much because you might make someone not feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
So it's like
that conundrum, especially with women.
Yeah. And so it's definitely, and women are taught to always consider the feelings of other people. So this is something, like the not hiding thing and showing up as who I truly am, and I can serve more people and achieve more when I deal with these past issues. And EMDR is, when I started first learning about it, it's typically done with people who have
PTSD and trauma stuff. But there's a whole range. That's the thing that we saw all this research on, the fact that you can do it with like peak performance type of things. And we were like, oh, we need to do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so like you rewire the brain and create these new pathways. And I did it specifically with public speaking.
Right. Yeah.
And, it's like owning that and showing up and dealing with some past trauma, quote unquote, about why I couldn't do that and things that I didn't even realize. So it's been hugely transformative.
Well, and like just to be able to move through the world without like, so many high achieving people will suffer through something, and they have this, that like driver, this like almost like a ghost that's like chasing them to like to be able to like outrun this thing. And so to be able to like really like work through that and like calm that part of ourselves that's like always coming after us to like do more and be enough, to be able to move through, like back to that David Brooks book, to be able to achieve and do things like joyfully with your whole self, instead of having to like run away from something or like outperform the shit that you don't want to deal with. Like that is, I think, a priceless thing. And so that is what our whole business is about, because Crystal and I have both had to do that process. Now you have done that process, and it's
so
just
cool.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, your work that I've done with you around healing touch, it's like there's a way where some of that comes into play that I've seen that you've helped me with, like release some old traumas or old things from the past and then let that go. And then, I don't know, I would imagine that maybe that's part of like shedding the ghost a little bit, or at least making that ghost quieter.
Right. As a side note, healing touch is energy medicine stuff. And so it's not therapy. So there's different. So I can work with Amy because that's how it works.
Yeah. Oops.
Different than therapy. No, it's good to clarify, because people are like, wait, you can't work with Anna, but then you can work with
right.
Because you can work with people.
Oh, got it.
It's a different boundary with energy medicine as opposed to therapy.
Yes. Yeah.
I just feel like I need to clarify. Yeah. No one else knows that probably, but I feel like I need to clarify that because
good job
for my own self.
Yeah.
Good clarification.
Yeah.
So highly recommend that. Get with the Kali Institute. They are amazing. And amazing. Total game changer.
They'll get that ghost away from you.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a practical tip today. And the practical tip is to pay attention to things that the question to ask yourself is, what am I not wanting to pay attention to that working or achieving is helping me to avoid? Totally big one.
So like Brene, like at the beginning of the episode, we talked about that shield.
Yes.
So what's behind the shield?
Yep.
Yeah. total quick one here. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Not another
real
hack.
light. No biggie.
Yeah.
So then, this is a big one that's going to take some time. So what we want to do with this is do an awareness challenge and notice our challenge for just life, not necessarily the next 2 weeks, is notice where you're getting your sense of worth from. And that is really going to help you uncover it. If you are doing this, as Brene Brown says, the hustle for worthiness, if you're looking outside yourself, if you're never satisfied, if you don't have contentment with your achievements, if it's serving you in some areas but not serving you in others, those are the things to pay attention
to. It's an insatiable appetite for that.
Well, and I think too, like the cake.co, it's always great to reach for the bigger goal, but you need to learn to appreciate and enjoy the results too.
Absolutely.
So it's like, are you able to, yes, you can be an achiever. Yes, it's awesome. Yes, there's so much to be accomplished, but are you able to then enjoy or appreciate what you achieve or what the result is?
And are you using achieving as a way to avoid certain tougher things?
Yeah.
Also too, and then on that note, and then we'll wrap it up. But I think that enjoying the process, and people always talk about that, of enjoying the process, is because if we just focus on, we're not ever arriving anywhere. And so when I realized that, then that helped me to alleviate something. Like if I'm just focused on where I'm going and I forget like, oh, there's all this space and time of the process, right? And so there was an interview with Bob Bowman, and so he was Michael Phelps' swim coach, and so he was talking about that with him, they set goals that they want to win Olympic gold medals, right? So that's the goal. But if they in their training just looked at the Olympic gold medal, then if you just focus on outcome, then it makes the whole process miserable. Whereas like if you can find joy in the process, then like that, and like really like enjoy being in it, it's an entirely different thing. And so I think with high achieving, one of practical tips is that to enjoy the process and not in this like, oh yeah, I'm going to enjoy the process. This is great. It's like really like you're not arriving anywhere. Yeah. And to realize that. And so because there's something, you reach one goal and there's something right after it. And so however you learn to do that.
Yeah. Well, and I think celebrating it and being like, oh, maybe I don't buy what I want off of Amazon right this second. Maybe I wait till I, hit this goal and then buy it as a treat to myself and kind of sit in it a little bit.
Right.
That's something Crystal helped me learn how to do.
That's good. That's good.
Good stuff. All right, ladies.
A lot with this episode.
A lot. We could keep going, but unfortunately, our time is up.
Right.
Sorry. Don't forget to go to lessalonepodcast.com to access the show notes, links, and resources from this episode. And remember, use the discount code lessalonepodcast for 20% off your first month at weeditpodcast.com.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening. You can find more about this episode and a way to connect to the community at lessalonepodcast.com. And if you like us, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to leave a review. It helps other people find us and could be just what they need.